7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Live from the church sanctuary, it's Northwoods tonight, everybody. Welcome. What? My mic? How about this one? Woo! My other one's on. Now you can hear me too. Okay. Tonight we're starting a new series, just a brief one. Next month, October, what we usually do and have done for many years is we use October as an outreach month. And it's an opportunity for us to bring in people who would otherwise not come to church, unsaved people, people maybe on the fence, people struggling with Christianity, people don't know what it is, what church is, don't know who we are as Christians. So the month of October, we kind of do a little something different. We kind of really target a different audience and hopefully give them some answers and help answer some questions that they have about who we are and who Jesus is. So this will take us up to October. In October, I think we're going to do a series we did many years ago, but I think it's time to do it again in this particular social setting in the world right now. I think it's relevant. So in October, we're going to start the series, the 4-part series called Welcome to the Freak Show. So be here for that. And what we're going to do for the next few weeks leading up to that, I was trying to figure out what to do and where to go. And I was looking at some of the stuff early on at the beginning of all of this, in the beginning of the lockdown and all of this this chaos. And when people early on didn't come to the sanctuary, we hadn't worked out the bugs of going online yet. So there's a lot of stuff that we said between Gary and I that was missed by a lot of people that I think is really important that we know, especially now. So I've taken a couple of those sermons and reworked them, and it's so important, the information that's in them, that I don't know if a lot of you got or heard. And so now that we've got a bunch of people back in the room and we've got an audience online, I think these are sermons that are really pointed for these times. So tonight, we're going to start off with part 1 in a series called The Win. The Win! Because right now, a lot of people feel like they're losing. Winning is good. Winning is good. Winning is good. Winning is better than losing. Winning is better than not winning. Feels like we all could use a win right now, right? Some of us maybe have experienced small wins, but boy, it just feels like there's a lot of losing going on. And we could use a win. Remember in my life, I was trying to think back this afternoon, even trying to think back to the first big win that I can remember that really, really hit me as this is a win. I won. And I remember things like in 6th grade was like my breakout year for winning when I was in 6th grade. I was skinny and I was fast. I was really fast. Nobody could catch me. I was the fastest kid in my class. I remember we did this thing called the 600. It was a run. It was like 600 meters or something. And it was a run you did every year as part of the presidential fitness badge or something. And I won that year. I won the race against all the kids in my class. I was the fastest one. Remember, the other kid that was behind me was Mike Barger. And I gotta beat him. I gotta beat him. And I did. And I set the record for the 600 in 6th grade. I was so excited. But the one that really, really hit me and that I remembered I was the most proud of was an art contest at Christmas time. And the local newspaper sponsored an art contest. And you were to draw a picture, submit it. Your teachers would collect them. They sent them in. And then the winning picture would be published in the newspaper, and you would win a set of acrylic paints with the brushes to go with it. And that, to me at that time, that was like, oh my gosh, if I could win that, because again, we had 7 kids, foreign exchange students, cousins, dogs, strangers, at our house, and finances were not something we had any of. So this was something that I couldn't buy. My parents wouldn't buy me because that was not money they had to spend. And it's something that I really wanted because I was just really into art, loved drawing, and I thought, I can do this, I can win this. And I did. I won the contest. I drew a picture of Santa, kind of like Kilroy was here, peeking over at the kids. It's kind of creepy now, I guess, he's peeking over at the kids, but that's what I did, and it won. And I remember my picture that I drew in the paper, and then me standing there with my set of paints in front of the chalkboard where the newspaper came to take my picture. And it was like, yes! And those paints, that just was a really proud moment for me. That was a win. Felt amazing. And when you win something like that, you kind of get this sense of, now that I know what it's like, I want to do it again. I want to win again, right? Some people are competitive, just naturally competitive. Some people are not competitive. Some people they'll just jump in and just try to win anything. It's just their nature. They're just going to give it a shot, see what happens. Other people are a little more fearful, a little more trepidatious. They're like, well, I don't know, because I might lose. And I think it's their fear of losing that keeps them from trying to win. Scripture says don't fear, and that fear keeps us from winning, which is what God wants us to do. He wants us to win. I've got a picture here. Throw that up there, Cole. You at home can't see it, and that's because you're not here in the sanctuary where you belong. So remember that next week. So this wonderful picture they're all looking at and enjoying, you can't see. It's a picture of me and Hayden and Grace in Missouri, outside of our house on West Downing Place, learning how to roller skate. And they're all padded up and helmeted up, and Mickey always tells the story of Hayden. He's like, I don't want to learn how to roller skate because all I do is fall down. If I'm just going to fall down, what's the point? And he didn't want to learn. He didn't want to roller skate because there was no point in it. If I'm just going to fail, if I'm just going to fall, what's the point? Grace, on the other hand, Grace is a mutant. And I remember one day I was at the park with her. Just her and I at the park. This is a park like a block from our house on West Downing Place. And I had a GMC pickup that the church actually had given me. And so that's parked on the street by the park. And Gracie's on the monkey bar. She's doing that one where you hang on and you go hand over hand, right, with your feet dangling. She's doing that one, and she fell. And when she fell, she went down and landed on her arms and caught herself and snapped the bones in her arm, broke her arm. And she stood up, and I thought, your arm's not supposed to be shaped like an S. I don't think that's normal. So I run up to her and I grab her arm, and I'm like, Grace, your arm is broken. And she pulled it back and she said, no, it's not. I'm fine. So for Hayden, it was, if I'm going to fall, what's the point? For Grace, it was like, if I fall, so what? I just fell. She was going to go back at it. And there's different approaches to this. I snatched her up and put her arm up and took my belt off and kind of wrapped it around to hold her arm steady, and carried her and ran to my truck, and we rushed her to the hospital, and some handsome doctor in cowboy boots fixed your arm. Remember that? You were in love with that guy. He was so handsome. Yeah. But there's different approaches to winning. Some people are just naturally go for it, and a lot of people are afraid of it. And both of my kids now, they've both learned that winning is important. It's not just winning is important. It's not just participating that's important. The point of participating is to win. Winning is important. Winning is important in the arenas of your life that matter most. We're going to talk about that. So here's a question you need to ponder tonight. Here's the thing I want you, as I'm preaching, for you to roll around in your head and think about. You need to answer this question for yourselves tonight, because if you can't answer this question, you're going to spend a lot of your time, you're going to spend a lot of your life chasing the wind. Running in circles, but never winning. If you can't answer this question in some area of your life, it may feel like you're running a race. It may feel like you're running, but you don't even exactly know where the course is, and you're not even sure what the finish line looks like. You're just running. You feel it, but you're running. You're not really sure what's going on. An illustration of this, I guess, if in high school and in college, I ran cross country. I was thinner, so just don't think I'm lying, because I wasn't always the giant of a man that I am. But so a lot of those races, it was hard when you're running to figure out where the course was, because you'd run. They'd have you running through a park, or they'd have you running a lot of times on golf courses, and they'd have the course stretched all around for miles around the golf course as you ran. So a lot of times they would have to have somebody on the course to direct you to make sure you didn't get off course, because a lot of times when you're out there running, I remember one race in particular. I think we were in Stevens Point at the time, and I'm running this race, and I lost track of where the course was. Because after so many miles, the runners start to space out, and I couldn't see the guy in front of me anymore, so I didn't know where it was. And I'm running, and I'm just running along the golf course. And all of a sudden, I hear some guy yell, 4! And a golf ball bounces past me, and it's like, I'm not on the course anymore. I am running, but I don't know where I'm running. I don't even know where the finish line is right now. And for a lot of us, that's kind of what we're doing every day in our life. We're just running out there, running, and we're not sure where or why. So the big question is, what's the win? What's the win? What's the goal? What's the end game? What does your destination look like? How do you know you're winning if you haven't identified what the win is? Are you moving in the right direction? Have you identified the finish line? What's the win? What's the goal? What's the goal in relationships for you? What's the win in that? What's the win in your finances? What does that look like? If you don't know, it's like you're just out there running constantly, but you don't know where you're running. You just feel like you're supposed to be running, but you don't know where or why. You know you should run, but you're kind of lost. And you look around and you notice that, well, it seems like some other people know where the course is. It looks like they know where the finish line is, but I don't. So I'm just out here running. Paul, we'll talk about that. Paul refers to that as like a boxer boxing the air. So, like, you've heard the old expression, like a rocking chair. There's a lot of motion, but you're not going anywhere. The truth is, in areas of your life that matter most people never define the win. There's a world filled with those people who are running and have no clue why or where. And here's another truth. If you don't define the win, you're going to adopt someone else's win. What does that look like? Well, you're going to begin to mirror the world. You're going to be out there in the middle of it, running around, and if you don't know what the win is, you're going to start to mirror what the world says the win is. That's what happens. You're going to spend your money like the world spends its money. You're going to have relationships like the world has relationships. You're going to spend your time like the world spends its time. You're going to have morals like the world's morals. You're going to tolerate things that the world around you tolerates. You're going to begin to settle for things. You're going to start living your life with a not goal. What's a not goal? N-O-T, a not goal. That's, I'm not going to be like them. I'm not going to be like my dad. I'm not going to be like my mother. I'm not going to be like that person. Here's the catch. Here's the sticky part of a not goal. Not goals are not good, because not goals are not wins. Not goals look backward. I'm not going to be like my dad. You're looking backward. You're looking backward at history when you're supposed to be moving forward. Not goals prevent you from doing that. Not goals look backward. Not goals keep you from looking forward. Wins make you look forward. They move you forward. Not goals define what you don't want to be, but not goals don't help you figure out what you should be, what you want to do. So, what's the win? You can't tell if you're winning if you don't know what the win is. How do you know? A better way to say this, in this season of your life right now, whatever season it is that you're in, what's the win for you? Seasons change and goals change as those seasons change. What do I mean by seasons? Well, when you're young, that's the season of your life where you're trying to figure out college, you're trying to figure out dating, you're trying to figure out, are you going to get married? And then there's another season where you get married and you get a house and you get a job and you're establishing yourself, and that's another season with different goals. And you become a parent and you have kids, and you're trying to parent those kids and figure that out, and all of the stuff that comes with that, and that's another season of your life. So whatever season you're in, what's the win for you in that? The goal in your marriage should not be, well, I didn't get divorced. Man, I stuck it out. Gosh darn it. It shouldn't be the goal of your marriage. That's not a win. Even though in our current culture that seems like a win, right? It's more of a not goal. Well, I'm not going to get divorced. Okay, but what's the win? What are you going to do? Mickey and I have an unwritten win in our marriage. We always want to be where the other one is. We've always done that. We've done everything together. We had jobs that we did together. We worked in the same place and multiple jobs for a long time. We walk the dog together. We go grocery shopping together. We take vacations together, because I discovered that some couples take separate vacations. I don't even understand that. I don't get that at all. But maybe that's your win. I don't know. We do everything together. We watch TV shows together, and a lot of you probably do this. There'll be particular shows that we watch, but if I'm not around, she won't watch it because we watch it together. That's something we do together. So we want to be together. Women's retreats, if she'd go off for something like that, I don't do well by myself without her. So she'll go away somewhere in a women's retreat, and I don't even know what to do with myself. I sit up all night eating hot wings, eating ice cream, and hoping she gets home soon. I don't know what to do with myself. So for Mickey and I, the big win is wanting to be with each other. Tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day. No matter what. It's not money, it's not career. For us, the big win is wanting to be with each other. No matter what situation we're in, if we still want to be with each other, doesn't matter where we are, doesn't matter what we have, if we want to be with each other, in the midst of that, that's a win. Your win might be different. But the point is, you need one. You need a win. Marriage is emotional. Marriage is complicated. Marriage is busy. And you can spend your whole marriage just running with no win. Parenting kids. Same thing. What's your win? Here's a common default win for parents raising kids. Common default win is, and this is one you should not adopt. And it is, our win is well-behaved kids. And it sounds nice, doesn't it? Sounds good. Well-behaved kids. Here's why I say this. Because when it's all said and done, and you've raised your kids, and they've moved out of the house, what's the win? If all your win was for them to be well-behaved, and they're gone, and out of your influence, what's the win? Because as a parent, understand this, you parent in a direction. You parent in a direction, and Scripture refers to that as an arrow. right? When you have kids, the quiver full, it's a blessing. And, you draw back and you aim the arrow. And when you let it go where you've aimed it. So when your kids are gone, where have you aimed them? Well behaved. If all you've done is given them the ability to behave, when they get out in the world's going to overwhelm them. What about for our kids? What about loving each other? What about loving your siblings? And again, this was something my family struggled with. Mickey's family, very different. Our family doesn't like each other, doesn't do stuff together. Her family's everybody does stuff together, and even the neighbors and strangers, they all come together and do stuff. And it's like, it's a whole different world. When I met her and started dating, it was like, wow, it's different. I liked it. Hayden and Grace are very different, but they love each other. They love us. These are wins. They know what a good marriage looks like. We left them that. They know Christ. They know how to handle pain. They know how to handle adversity. They know and understand what it is to sacrifice for someone else. They know how to stand firm and fight when you need to fight. And they know what to fight and who to fight. And they understand who their parents are, and they trust us. And they know at the end of the day, the win is Jesus. That's the win. And as a parent, when you have a win, when you have a North Star, when you have a goal, when you have a destination as a parent, then you're going to parent in a direction instead of just random. How you parent is going to change in the seasons of your life. For us, we didn't use things like a timeout. We didn't use a timeout. I just didn't see the point. It didn't seem trendy and pointless to me. Things like, and I still see it today, I'm going to count to 3. I'm not counting to 3. I look at my kids and it's like, you know what I want? I want you to clean your room. I'm not going to give you 3 opportunities to disobey me. You're going to clean your room. We're not counting to 3. Clean your room, period. Bam, 1, do it. That's the rule. Not counting to 3. They understood that. We didn't give in to their tantrums. If they had a tantrum, that was it. We're gone. If they're in the store and they start kicking and screaming, we're out. Sorry, kids. Nothing. You get nothing. We understood who we wanted our kids to be. We parented in the direction to make them that. Does that make sense? The win. We didn't pay for everything. If they wanted something, they needed to get a job. Hayden was an equine waste removal facilitator for Gale for years. Shoveled horse manure and bought all his own video game stuff. He still has them. You know why? Because he sweat and worked really hard to get the money to buy them. He's got like his original Nintendo system. He's taking care of that. That's something we wanted them to understand, the value of money and hard work. It's a win. And if they started something, they had to finish it. People are depending on you, whether it's the baseball team or whatever. If you said you're going to do it, well, you're going to finish it. Don't make excuses. Don't quit. Win. Notice other people. Notice other people. Read the room everywhere you go. Every time you enter a room, read the room. There's people in there. God will give you see it. They know how to do that. They know how to say no to something good so they can say yes to something better. Behavior modification as a parent, you're not training a dog. This is a human being that God has made with a plan and a purpose and placed in your care. Right, Charlotte? Right. Raising a kid is critical. She is not liking the direction she's being parented in right now. So no matter what the season is that you're going through right now, you need to identify the win for you, the goal, the point, the finish line. There's a win statement in the New Testament that I want to share with you. It's written by a man whose words have shaped the world and have shaped Western civilization. Paul, the apostle. His Roman name was Paul. His Hebrew name was Saul. Once he met Jesus and started going out into the Roman Empire, he very cleverly used his Roman name, Paul, which gave him a broader audience. Paul's win was in response to a failure he had. Failures can help define our wins. Failures can define your failures if you let them. The old saying, fall down 4 times, get up 5. Paul did that. Paul shows up in history as Saul of Tarsus, the Hebrew. He shows up as the guy who's destroying the Christian church, the early Christians, hunting them down, torturing them, arresting them, killing them. He's going to stamp out every last ember of Christians, of these Jesus followers, going to stomp them out. That's how he shows up in history. And all the time, all the while, he thinks he's serving God. As a good Jew, he's serving God. Then he meets the resurrected Jesus. Oops. I guess I wasn't serving God at all. I guess I was fighting him. For the rest of his life, Paul would run across people. People who would look at him and say, Paul, I remember you. You had me arrested and thrown in jail. Paul, you ruined my life. Paul, my marriage fell apart because you threw me in prison. Paul, you tortured my sister. Paul, my brother has never been the same since you did to him what you did. These are people he met for the rest of his life. 1 Corinthians 15, verse 9, for I am the least of the apostles and do not even deserve to be called an apostle. Why? Because I persecuted the church of God. Paul's been affected by his failure. And then in 1 Corinthians 15:10, but by the grace of God, I am what I am. I'm not the same. I'm different because of the grace of God. And his grace to me was not without effect. In other words, God did not waste his time on me. I got it. Thank goodness for his grace. No, I worked harder than all of them. Who? The other apostles. What do you mean you worked harder than them? I did some stuff. And so I really feel like I need to do twice just to end up in the same place. I need to put in double the effort. Yet not I, but the grace of God that was in me. I worked harder than all of them. Yet not I, but the grace of God that was in me. He was changed. He had a win now. He knew where he was going. The past was not wasted. It gave him clarity. It gave him a win. Paul worked harder because he harmed so many. His letters to the early churches shaped and continue to shape Western civilization. He introduced Jesus to the non-Jewish world. He planted those seeds that have spread across the globe. He explains what his win is. This is Paul's win. And you don't have to adopt this. Your season may have a different win for you. So here's the win and the statement after it explaining his motivation for it. 1 Corinthians 9:19. Though I am free and belong to no man, I make myself a slave to everyone. Why? Here's the win. To win as many as possible. Paul's win is winning people. That's his win. 1 Corinthians 9:20. To the Jews, I become like a Jew. Well, Paul, you are a Jew. What do you mean? To the Jews, I become a Jew to win the Jews. So when he goes to the Jews, I'm Saul. Let's sit down. Have some Jewish food. Some charoset. To those under the law, I became like one under the law. So he goes to the Jews who don't know Christ, who aren't followers of Jesus. He goes to them. They're still all under this whole big Mosaic law, 613 laws and everything. They're all bound by that. He goes to them and he lives under those rules too. He comes in under those rules, become like one under the law, though I myself am not under the law. What does he mean by that? He means those laws, Jesus came, gave a new covenant with one law now. That one law, which is love each other as I have loved you. That's it. Love them as I have loved you. That's the only law Paul lives by. Out of that one law, everything else flows. So all this other stuff, he understands their laws. He's a Hebrew of Hebrews. He's a Jew of Jews. He knows that. So when he goes to the Jews, he gets it. He's one of them, but he's not under all those rules. Though I myself am not under the law, so as to win those under the law. So I'm going to go in there, and I understand all their stuff, and if they have a ritual for washing and things that are kosher and non-kosher and all these other things, I'm going to do all that stuff. Even though I don't need to, I don't have to now, because I'm under one law now, Christ. They don't know Christ. We're gonna fix that. I'm coming in here and I'm going to introduce them to Christ. He approached Jews using their laws and rules. He became like them. He got along with anybody. He would become whatever he was. He was chameleon-esque. He would become like those he was with. Why? Why could he do that? Why did he do that? Why did he come in and become so many different things? If he was with the Jews, he would be a Jew. He goes to Corinth and he's preaching to the Greeks, and so he goes to the wall with all the gods and he does his little speech about his God, like the Greeks would do, and becomes a part of that particular scene there. And it gives him an audience that will listen to him. So he does this. Why? How could he do this? How could he one day be one thing, one day be another thing? He can because he has a North Star. He has a North Star that guides him. He has a goal. He has a defined win that determines his direction. It determines his choices, his decisions, his destinations, and that win for him, that North Star, keeps him on course always. We need that. 1 Corinthians 9:21. To those not having the law, I became like one not having the law. So when he's going to non-Jews, he's going to the Greeks, then those rules don't matter to him, the Jewish law rules, because these people don't understand them or know them anyway. Though I am not free from God's law, but under Christ's law. Christ's law, again, love them as I have loved you. That's the law he's following. So, to win those not having the law. So he goes to those who live under the law, the Jews, becomes like them so that they can be saved. He goes to those not Jewish, outside the law, who the law doesn't apply to. Why? To save them, to bring them to Jesus, to win them. He's winning everybody. Doesn't even matter what your background is. Doesn't matter where you come from. Paul steps in there and loves them as Christ loved us. And he gives and he sacrifices. And he forgives, and he's patient, and he's kind, and he's wise. And he's going to love them right into the kingdom. It's amazing. Then he says something else. That one law. We need to know this because it's not enough to wish. It's not enough to wish it. It's not enough to want it. It's not enough to desire it. It's not enough to just have it here and here. Well, Brad, I don't understand what you're saying. It's necessary, but it's not enough. There's one more step. So Paul says this in 1 Corinthians 9:24, the first half of the passage. Do you not know that in a race all the runners run? Yep, Paul, we know that. We understand how races work. But only one gets the prize? Yep, we understand that too. First person across gets the prize. Do you know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? In athletic competition, the opponent is obvious. The person you're running against is obvious. They're lined up next to you. You can turn your head and look right at the person you're running against. That's your competition. That's the person you have to beat. You can see them. Football, you line up and you're looking right into the face of the guy that's trying to knock you on your butt, the guy that's in your way, the guy that's trying to stop you. You know your opponent. You can see them. You can see their sweat and smell them. They're right there. It's easy to see your opponent in an athletic competition. Boxing, it's the guy punching you in the face. That's your opponent. There's a scoreboard, too, which constantly reminds everyone what the score is. Are you winning or losing? You can see it. When it comes to winning in your marriage, when it comes to winning in your finances, when it becomes, you're trying to figure out if you're winning with your kids, it's harder to tell. It's hard to tell. It's not obvious because you don't see the opponent. And then our nature is we lose that sense of urgency. We forget that this is a competition. Life's not a competition, Brad. Well, yes, it is, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it is. It is. And we have been lied to and told it is not. God didn't put you here to lose. God didn't put you here to fall away and never see him again. He put you here to overcome the world, more than a conqueror, a victor in Christ. You're here to win. That's biblical. We relax. When we don't see the opponent, we relax. We procrastinate. I'll get to it later. It's not important. The whole time, the enemy is not relaxing. We settle for less. We settle for good enough. Paul says this, 1 Corinthians 9:24b, the second half of that verse. Do you not know that in a race, all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Yep, we know that. So here's what you need to do. Run in such a way as to get the prize. Here's the point. Paul is saying, live your life with the same urgency, with the same focus, with the same order, purpose, and discipline that you would bring to an athletic competition. Think of the Olympics. You need to train, you need to practice, you need to prepare. As if you can see the competition right next to you, as if you know who you're running against. They're right next to you. You need to be ready to run. You need to be ready to push yourself. You need to be ready to make sacrifices. You need to be ready to maybe feel some pain. You need to be ready to really, really see what you're made of. Because winning is your goal. Winning costs something. Paul is saying you need to be willing to pay it. In the areas of life that matter most, in order to win, there's a price to pay. I don't want that, Pastor Brad. Paul tells us, pay it. Pay it. Pay it and win. 1 Corinthians 9:25. Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will, he's talking about the people, the Isthmian Games at the time, the Olympic Games. The winners of those contests, they do it to get a crown that will not last. The winners of those contests got a crown made of laurel leaves that would eventually wither and die. The symbol of their win would eventually fade and die. And he's saying they do this, they compete, they train, they focus, they sacrifice just to get something that in a week is going to be dead. But we do it to get a crown that will last forever. We get everlasting life. Man, oh man, if they do it for something that dies, shouldn't we work hard to get something that's permanent? I think we should. You don't want to get to the end of your life and wonder, did I win? Did I win? Was I on the right course? You want to get to the end of your life and find out your whole time you just were aimlessly running and ended up lost? Because that's what the world is doing. All those people who don't know Jesus right now, they're out there on the golf course. They don't know where the finish line is. 1 Corinthians 9:27. Oh, 9:20. 9:26. Therefore, I do not run like a man running aimlessly. I do not fight like a man beating the air. Paul says, I'm not out there just running aimlessly because I'm supposed to run, but I don't know where. I'm not out there just trying to figure out who to fight. That's ridiculous. He said, that's not who you are as a Christian. That's not who I am. I'm not going to do that. No, on the contrary. What I do, I beat my body and make it my slave so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize. Paul said, I train. I make sacrifices. I have said no to something so I can say yes to something better. I understand it is hard. It takes work, and I'm paying the price. I'm putting in the time. I'm going to make myself do things my brain doesn't want it to. I'm going to do things that I'm tired, and I'm going to say to my body, so what? I want ice cream. You can't have ice cream. That's mine. Put that back up there. I'm not done yelling about this passage yet. No, I beat my body. Make it my slave. Paul is saying my spirit is going to overwhelm my flesh. The Spirit of the living God is going to help him to subdue what the flesh wants and do what the Spirit wants instead, which is the win. So that at the end of the day, after he has preached to others this message of Christ, that he himself will not be disqualified for the prize, that he, in the end, won't be looked at by the ones who matter. Christ won't look at Paul and say, Paul, little buddy, you blew it. Man, I gave you so much and you threw it away. You wasted it. It's a sad thought. He doesn't want to be disqualified. He talks so much about this. He talks about, don't wander from your lane. Stay in your lane. If you wander out of it, you're going to be disqualified. He said, focus on the goal. Winning is that important. It is so important that if you take your eyes off it and wander, you're going to end up away from Christ and you're going to lose the prize, which is heaven forever with Jesus, I hope. He doesn't want to be disqualified for that. I pay the price. I make the sacrifice. I say no for now, yes to later, no to something good so I can say yes to something better. I focus, I push, I'm disciplined. I have a defined win, and I'm going to run like I'm running to win the prize. If you're in the race, why else would you be in it but to win? Maybe this is an OCD trait. I don't know, but you want to do stuff the best you can. Sometimes in the world you can't. It just doesn't allow it. In all kinds of things. In my job, it frustrates me because I know things could be done better, but at some point you just got to, this is how it's going to be. Painting my house, I love it, but at this point, this is what it's going to be. But at least try. Put in the effort. Run like you're going to win the prize. You can do that in your life. You should do that in your life. In the areas that matter most, have you defined the win? 1 Corinthians 9:27, second half of that passage. I, myself, will not be disqualified for the prize. We need to prepare and compete as if our competition is lined up right next to us, standing right in front of us. This is the energy we need to put into our lives every day. Paul says, pray without ceasing. Not pray sometimes, pray occasionally, pray when you think about it. That's not running to win the prize. That's somebody who's running aimlessly and boxing the air, I'm afraid. That's what he means when he says pray unceasingly, always, every day, every day. Talk to God, talk to your dad every day. Tell him about your wins, tell him about your struggles, tell him about your losses, tell him about the person you met, tell him what you need, tell him thank you for what he did. Every day, all the time. The armor of God, Ephesians chapter 6, Paul's talking about that. He doesn't say, well, occasionally when you run into trouble, go to your closet and grab some of the armor and suit up. Nope. Because scripture also says the enemy is like a crouching lion waiting to devour you. So he's going to go, surprise, and then you're not going to be ready because you're not running to win the prize. You're being lackadaisical. Put the armor on every day, all of it. Use it because there's a battle. Yes, there's a competition that wants to kill you. Pray, be armored up, be on your best game every day, all day. That's too hard, Pastor. I'm exhausted just listening. Well, then, just quit then. Forget about the win and just get out there and, just run aimlessly and box the air because that's going to work for you. Boy, Pastor, you're not being nice to people. You're not going to reach people with that message. I disagree. We need to prepare and compete as if the competition is looking us in the eye. Do not be disqualified because you are not prepared. You do not win by wishing. You do not win by wanting. You do not win by hoping. And not heretical, you do not win by praying only. Goes back to what I said. It's not just here. It's not just here. How do you win? There's the final step. You win by preparing to win. You win by standing up and moving in the direction of your win. It needs to be here, it needs to be here, and it needs to be here and here. There needs to be movement. You need to put yourself in it. You need to walk, and you need to use your hands, and you need to get off the bench and get in the game. Moving in the direction of your goal. And you will never do that if you have not identified the win. What's the win relationally for you? What's the win financially? What's your win as a parent? Academically, professionally? What's your win spiritually? Are you prepared to win? If you want a life unlike everybody else's life, you have to live unlike anybody else. If you want a marriage unlike every other marriage, you have to have a marriage unlike every other marriage. You have to handle your finances differently. If you want your finances to look differently than the world's, you got to deal with yours differently. If you want to parent and have kids unlike the kids in the world, you got to parent differently. What's your win? Not to be a downer, because I've been one so far. Not to be a downer, but you only have one life. We've talked about this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not the dress rehearsal. What are you waiting for? This is the live show. This is it. This isn't, oh, well, when I hit 50, then I go on stage, and then I have to have my lines ready. No. All these seasons of your life, you get them one time. You get to be young and figure that out one time. You get to do the, dating, relationships, get a house, get a job, get settled, have a family. You get to do that one time. You get to raise your kids one time. Well, Pastor Brad, this is making us feel bad. Well, no, because you also have some wins. Think about those. I'm not here to yell at you and say you lived your life wrong. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is whatever season you're in right now, man, here's an opportunity for you moving forward to have a win. If you're thinking, man, I have so many losses, I need a win. Well, this is your day. Woo! I want you to have big wins. I want you to stick close and he's going to walk you places and you're win, win, win. Goal, goal, goal. And every time you're closer to him. I love it. That's what I want for you. Because if you don't, decide what your win is, the current of life and the winds of culture will pick a win for you. Remember this. When you win in the areas of life that matter most, the people closest to you win too. And when you lose in the areas of life that matter most, the people around you lose too. Jesus showed us what this looks like. Jesus showed us what this looks like. And as followers of Christ, as followers of Jesus, this is not optional. This is not optional. If you cannot pick up your cross and follow me, you cannot be my disciple. If you cannot run this race, if you cannot run the course, if you cannot stick close to me, if you cannot sacrifice when you need to sacrifice, if you cannot lay aside your flesh and do the right thing, if you cannot define the win and stick with me, you lose. That's in the Bible. Jesus defined the win. He defined the win. He's there in the garden. And he can decide to stand up or just let it go. He stands up. He moves in the direction of the win. He pays the price and he wins. And we all won that day too because of it. Imagine how much goodness, how much greatness there is for us ahead of us, ahead for you when we win. And everybody around us wins too. There's a world out there that needs us to win. There's a world out there who doesn't know Christ that desperately, they don't even know it, but we need to win for them. Don't run aimlessly. Don't box the air. Define the win. Direct your steps. Follow Jesus. And we can change the world. It needs changing. And we are the only ones on the planet who can make that happen as a win. It's the church. It's the followers of Jesus. If the world's going to have a win, it's us that are going to do it. Are you following me? That's what Jesus is asking. Are you following me? Let's stand and close with prayer. Lord, we thank you. We thank you so much that you came down into the game, and showed us what a win looks like. You showed it all to us. You showed us how to prepare. You showed us how to withstand. You showed us how to push past those things that would cause us to quit. You showed us when we do that and we do have a win, you showed us the ripple effect and the power, the explosion that goes out from our win that echoes in the world. You showed us. And Lord, how that got lost, how that got forgotten in your church, I don't know. Lord, help us to get it back. Help us to see it. Help us, Lord. Help us every single day to run as if you get the prize. Lord, you will sustain us. Lord, you will lift us up. Lord, you will guide us. Lord, you will give us all that we need. We thank you. By your shed blood, we win. Amen. All right. For everyone watching at home, online, thank you for tuning in and good night.